wall update. I've been asked a lot of questions online from people who are, I guess, curious as to how I came about with doing a setup like this. And it originally came from some time ago. I came across a couple of people on YouTube who had some great suggestions for people who wanted to display their books where they just didn't sit in storage cases. So the idea was given, and these are discontinued, unfortunately. Like many things, these came from IKEA. These type of, there are two types of frames. This is one style frame, and this one to me is a frameless frame, like the floating frame to me, which was one of the best inexpensive ways of displaying the comics, and how these things are able to complement a book as such. And this is what the back looks like. Unfortunately, IKEA, they don't have the best, they go off sales, and I don't know how any of that stuff works, but it seems like some of the best items that they have, they usually wind up discontinuing. And apparently this one wasn't popular enough for them to receive a response to bring them back in stock. I've showed this before on my channel, but it wasn't the best lighting, and there've been some updates. The comic industry has exploded. Even to my surprise, I would have never guessed that it would have taken off like it has, and a lot of the movies do spike and drive some of the comic lore and the popularity of comic books. But it's almost like the stock market nowadays. It's so crazy to see what's gone on in the industry, which I'm so appreciative of. I have an artist background, and these to me are works of art, and I'm a very visual and colorful comic artist myself. The way I set this up, it was a lot of measuring. It took some time, and I think I get a lot of compliments when people see this wall. They're pretty impressed with the colors. Certainly make it pop. Ever since I was a kid, I loved Conan. I think Arnold Schwarzenegger was one of the best to do it. They should just leave that movie alone. It would be nice to see. I know the licensing and so forth, we're doing something with Conan is not easy from what I hear. The artwork in this alone is what gravitated this towards me, to collect. Moving on over to Logan, this book right here, Faith of the Warlord. Love that striking black and white imagery, great design. This is fairly recent. This was gifted to me in memory of Chadwick Bosewick, and this is a commemorative cover done by Todd McFarlane, and Chadwick is in Spawn attire there. Much respect. Rest in peace. This cover speaks for itself. This is the black and white version. There's also a color version that I have, but that's in my other room, so I don't have it displayed here. This is fairly new, Savage Avengers. This wall in particular, I have to say, by coincidence, which is so funny, a lot of this stuff is what were my favorite comic books in general, but it's interesting to see, or coincidentally, how a lot of the films are being made in some of these, as I mentioned before, comic books are spiking. Like, I love this. This is another big coincidence. These are all my favorite, with the exception of one, which is, I think, Brother or Dr. Voodoo back there. I grew up loving all of these guys. There's Conan. I was always a big Venom fan. Always loved the Punisher. Who doesn't love Wolverine? And then Elektra back there. And then for them to come out with a comic book as such, I had to update my wall, and this is one of the new additions that I put up here, because I was like, oh, this is the best of all the worlds put together. And a great book, fun read. Black Adam has always been up here. I love this cover. I had no idea they'd be making a movie. It was talks, but now it's official that The Rock is going to be doing Black Adam. The Punisher, that's the Punisher magazine. I don't know too much about this, but the imagery and the way this stuff is done right here has captivated me, and I was always a big fan. So even before Punisher hit Netflix and all that stuff, I was always a fan. So coincidentally, that's one that just happened to be on this wall. These guys here, Omega level mutants, Apocalypse, and of course Magneto. Never had any idea that they would be doing the movie, but the movie's been done some time ago, but that was always on the wall. A lot of talk and anticipation of this guy right here, which is Beta Ray Bill, and he's apparently going to be hitting the MCU soon, but this was up here before any of that. I had any notion that there were going to be movies made. This was one of my favorite books, an underrated characters in the Marvel lore that I just thought should have got more attention, but looks like that's going to be happening soon. This was always up here. There's Venom again. This was the first issue of Lethal Protector. Wonderful cover. This is just a standard one with the red cover. I know there's some mistake versions like a black and white cover that are extremely expensive if they're graded. Astro City. These books to me are incredible in the way that the illustrations or the panel work, the artwork, the paintings on these books and the stories are incredible. I wouldn't be surprised if something would come out storyline in movie cinema soon relating to Astro City. Already mentioned this gentleman here, and then I was a big Archangel fan growing up. Got him down there. So he's on this wall. Of course, paying my homage to Wolverine and Sabretooth. Ghost Rider, these 2099s were kind of underrated. They were a sign of the times. I think this was in the late 90s, early 2000s. I think we're going to see some stuff of this come out, or they probably be doing something cinematically relating to that. Big Pit fan, Image Comics, if you're aware of that. The imagery on this cover was just striking. Haven't heard anything about it, but personal like, this has been on this wall ever since I put it together. Iconic within itself, something that people always want to see and love to see is the verses of DC versus Marvel. So this is kind of what you got going on here with these guys. This book has a story to itself for anybody who knows the death of Superman back in whatever year that was, but this book was apparently anticipated to be something big because Superman apparently did die, but because of so many comic books saturating the market, this book never really gained the acclaim that it could have. And of course, Superman has been reborn since then, so that was kind of an epic fail. This book was always up here, but you know, Cable and Deadpool have come out. There's been a movie done of that. Gambit has always been one of my X-Men favorites. We haven't really seen him yet in the Marvel Universe, but I'm sure that's going to be happening soon. Punisher. This is an update, so I just put this on the wall due to the popularity of Morbius due to come out in April of 2022. I always was a big fan of this storyline here. This is when Magneto stripped Wolverine of his adamantium and he almost killed him. So I just received this book and it had to go on the wall. I love this story. And Visionaries, for those who don't know, this Visionaries book, as a kid, it was a TV series. I loved it to death for some reason. I had the toys and all that stuff. And this book and everything about this here is, to me, is extremely underrated, and it falls in, to me, it should have the popularity of Thundercats, but it doesn't. But doesn't matter. It had to go up here on this wall. This is a recent purchase. I had to have this because as much as I loved Venom, I love Carnage just as much, or if not more. Don't like what they did with any of the movies associated with it. Big disappointment. But I had to have this book. This is actually signed by the actual creator. And his name is Mark Bagley. And this is a 9.2. And I paid about $250 for this, I think. And I think it's gone up since then. Doesn't matter, but Carnage fan or not, I had to have this. I have the whole Carnage series when he had his first series. I have them all, not displayed, but I have them in a storage. And this was always up here. I actually just recently put this up here because I had no idea that this story was associated with 2099, and there's a big anticipation, and this book has spiked in price and popularity due to the character associated with SpiderMan 2099. So that's the 30th anniversary. It has this holographic look to it. I was always a Spider-Man fan as a kid growing up, and there's my homage to Spider-Man and some of this stuff here associated with little toys and whatnot. And Thundercats, who wouldn't love these guys? Batman, Spider-Man crossovers have always been big, and I have them right there together. I had to pay homage to a little Batman. I have another DC section and another. This is a holographic graphic cover. This was always up here, but I had to buy this. You can't really see it well, but it shows them as lovers, but then it shows them fighting as well. Wildcats cartoon was made back in the 90s or so forth. Union, this is an Image comic book. They're the artists there. I just love the cover and love what they were able to do with this. So probably nobody knows who this is, but I just love the cover. It had to go on this wall for me. Ninjak is apparently gonna be coming out. I actually did just recently put this up here, but apparently they're gonna be doing something, I think from a movie standpoint with this, some type of series or whatever. Gambit, always, once again, big fan of. Bloodshot has always been up here. Of course, I think Vin Diesel portrayed him in a film. Here's another Wolverine. This is 75, and this is the other version too. Wolverine losing his adamantium. Xena, got her up there just because of nostalgic sake. Punisher 29, once again, I'm a Punisher fan. Prophet, Image comic series, and this is, to me, the Motherlode. Out of all the books I have, I just actually got this off of eBay. And this book, to me, says it all. What else do you need to say? Superman versus Muhammad Ali. Now, out of everything I have, to me, this is the most iconic book and significant book for multiple reasons that I'm not going to go into. But I just received this, so this had to go on the wall. It's on the bottom because if you can see, it's not your standard format, and it's a huge book. Great read, and from a standpoint of everything associated with comics and whatever else you want to put into this metaphorically, this book is the Motherlode to me right here. I'm very proud to own it. It's not in the best condition, and I don't even care. Just to have a part of this that's historic to me. So that's that. And the last portion of this wall, start at the top. Always been a huge Omega Red fan. It'd be nice to see him soon. There's a little toy model of him there. So hopefully, if he appears or not, I don't care. Just been a fan, and that's why it's up on this wall. This was going to kind of be a wall that I've changed a little bit because I was going to keep it all female, because females don't usually get that much love in the comic industry, but I had to mix it up a little bit. But back there, I got Witchblade and Elektra. When I first read the Witchblade comic book, it blew my mind. And they did a TV series back in, I think, in the early 2000s or whatever. I don't think it ever got the popularity that it should have, but this was an amazing read to me. It read like a movie, came off like a movie to me. And I just love the design and the concept of the Witchblade. This is Medieval Spawn, Witchblade number 2. This book is new, so this actually went up, but everything else was already up here. I just love this cover design. This is Witchblade 8. I just thought a fantastic cover design. The 10th, for anybody who don't know what the 10th is about, this is like associated with the darkness and everything. You got this innocent, meek child, and I don't know if she's a child, because I don't even know the story that well, but she has these dark demons that can destroy you, so you have to watch out for those innocent looks, which is the metaphor, which is so cool, because can't judge a book by its cover. That's what that's about right there. Catwoman and Vampiralia speaks for itself. The first family, the Obamas. I had to have this only because Michelle Obama. I'm not into politics or anything like this, but you typically don't see comic books like this. So from a nostalgic sake and historic sake, wanted this up here. This is not a comic book, but I do on occasion get some things I'm associated with a couple of memorabilia places online, and I actually won this in an auction, and it's Rosario Dawson has signed this. I love, Frank Miller is the person who did Sin City, and of course that speaks for itself. I love the movie, thought the graphic novels were great, and I love Rosario Dawson. I don't think who would not. And to have something like this signed by her, and that almost to me looks like it could be a comic book cover. Things are about to get nasty. Rosario Dawson is the gal, and that speaks for itself. I just love her as an actress, and then some. The Darkness, this has always been up here, but this cover to me is amazing, and it happens to be red that matches the wall. Silver Surfer versus Thanos. Always been a Silver Surfer fan, and there's his collectible back there. And that pretty much does it for this wall. Oh, let me go down to the bottom a little bit, but this is a compilation that was put together, and I'm just gonna scroll down. There are comic books at the bottom, so let me just start. Always been a Godzilla fan. This is a Monsters Attack cover, and that goes into that's a mixture of everything. That's not a comic book per se. Raiders of the Lost Ark, issue #1, RoboCop 2 #1. And I've never been a Star Trek fan, but this wound up in my collection some kind of way. I think I traded for this with one of my buddies who was in the comic books too, but this is a movie special #1. Godzilla again. I forgot the name of this movie, but as a kid when I saw this, I was just in love with it. Jet Jaguar. Compilations of everything that I put together. I framed this myself, and wasn't that fun to do because I hate framing and matting, but it has, this is actually, I think, a lithograph that came out of an actual Marvel book that somebody given to me as a gift. So I thought it'd be fun to display it some kind of way and display some of the other things or other characters that I like and try to pay homage just to the genre. Captain Marvel was always one of my favorite comic book characters. And this is just a variation of X-Men, Marvel, and that's pretty much it. And of course, Carnage, SpiderMan, Batman says it for itself, Iron Man. I forgot who did this actual image here. But anyhow, I redid this myself. This is a drawing that I did on the illustration board, and I replicated it from the actual artist's printout. But that has been incorporated into this frame piece too. This came from a DVD collection case, and it's a lithograph or something of such. Yeah, it's actually a lithograph, Hancock. So I was wondering, like, what do you do with something like that? So I figured I would just, it would make the framed version of this, being that Hancock is not a traditional hero that anybody knows of, but I felt, why not add to this particular frame collage? And that pretty much does it for the comic wall. I'll just do a quick pan around so you can get an idea of what this looks like. But in general, all of these were pretty much here as such, and they were just, it's just fun to have them be displayed like this. When I first placed them here, I don't intend on moving these things. I'm not a person for moving stuff around all the time. So when it's up there, it's up there. But like I said, there's been some exceptions to that rule because I thought it was just kind of fun that since I did have some of these things in my collection, that it would be fun to display them along with the rest of what and who is here on this wall. And that may change too. If I do it, it'll be very subtle. It'll be like one or two that I may switch out. But overall, this is the comic wall and the comic wall update. So I hope you enjoyed this brief little tour